to Success Matters. Success Matters is a podcast series about everyday people sharing what success means to them. My guest today is Adele Chee. Listen to how you can spark your life with Adele. So what are you doing in Malaysia then? You're with family, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. In Malaysia, Malaysia's family.
And so how long have you actually lived in London though? Because you're London based rather than Malaysia based, right?
Right. Yes, correct. This would be coming to 12 years now. 11 and a half years in
All right.
London.
Okay.
Yeah,
And did you
over a
move to
decade.
London because of work or was it some other reason?
No, for London, it was met my better half, and we decided
Okay.
to move there.
Oh,
Basically,
perfect.
I think. Well, let's be honest here. I've always wanted to live abroad. So I love
Mhm.
Malaysia, but I've always wanted to live abroad. This goal, among a few other goals in my life, has been pretty much the North Star for me
Right.
for a lot of choices
Okay.
that I've made in my life, from relationships to career path that I've chose. And so, yeah, so I mentioned relationships. So one of the key relationship is finding a kindred spirit in my husband. One of our shared passion is to explore the globe until neither of us can walk anymore. And even that, I think, I told him, if I cannot walk, but you can, you have to push me on the wheelchair.
So how much of the globe have you explored so far then?
We've been to nearly 50 countries, more so than me because of work. So he's past the 50 countries mark. I'm two more away. And so we were kind of researching on how best to, do this. Like, okay, we want to go all over and just trying to find a suitable location for us. But also, as I said, it has always been my dream to live abroad.
Hmm.
Abby has lived in Australia before, but he was also like, yeah, I can leave Australia now and I can go anywhere. And so I think what, we were trying to figure out okay, where, how, and all of that, because we wanted to do things, travel the globe in a way that meets our values, as well as other interests that we have. And one of the things that we want to make sure is, easy access back to home as well. So it would have been quite easy to okay, let's go to Latin America, which is actually on our list. But I think it being our pioneer step, I think the UK came out as a clear winner for us. And that's how we ended up in London. Oh my gosh, over a decade ago.
Well, yeah. 12 years ago you said, right? So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So you've been working in London, right? I think you worked with, was it Glaxo? You used to work for GlaxoSmithKline before?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the companies that I worked for in the UK. Yeah. And a few others as well.
Yeah. And what were you doing there when you were employed in the corporate world?
Well, I started my corporate career actually in Malaysia and
Okay.
with the fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, and pharmaceutical industry. So I started my career in Unilever as I moved on to Johnson & Johnson. And then when I got to the UK, I was with a consulting agency, IRI, who is supporting P&G. And so I was working with P&G before I moved back to the client side with RB and then transitioned to GSK.
Right. Okay. And yeah, we met whilst we were doing some work in lockdown, actually, with one of the local colleges. Do you do a lot of mentoring with young kids and young adults?
Well, that was actually my first time in a formal capacity.
Okay.
I think, being the eldest in my family, on my mom's side and within my own nuclear family as well. And one of the older ones on my dad's side of the family, I think, giving big sisterly advice kind of came naturally with the role. But also, I think, from with my friends growing up in school and also at work, people tend to gravitate to me, and we're just bounce off ideas and share experiences and all of that. So in a formal capacity, the mentoring panel that we were on, that was my first time.
And have you done any more of that sort of mentoring?
So I like to see things through, and so
Yeah.
what I've moved on from that, I do less panel style mentoring and have gone into more individual one-to-one mentoring. And I do that with high school and university students, partnering with a charity and also a university to do that.
All right, cool. That's great. And so that supplements alongside your coaching, right? Which you do
Yes.
now as your full-time
Right.
full-time work. So how long have you
And
been
that's the
coaching for?
beauty and that's the beauty of like running your own coaching practice because
Yeah.
then you're the master of your own time. I'm doing this not for the love of money, but for the love of people.
Right.
And and the thing, unlike corporate where we're always trying to strive for the organization's margins, it's my own margin to care for. And so I'm just so pleased to be able to do pro bono work as part of my daily routine.
Okay, that's cool. And so as part of your coaching methodology, you've come up with the Spark model. Tell me more a little bit about Spark.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Spark is a thing that I think that I developed reflecting on the life that I've led and also the observations of the other people's life that I've seen. And just trying to find like, what similarities and like what kind of work and kind of put that together to basically understand why people are so fulfilled in the way that they are living and how can they be so comfortable with themselves. And so I kind of came up with Spark, which is a self alignment model that is designed to strengthen the relationship that you have with yourself. So what this means is that you have clarity and alignment across your core elements, so your values, strengths, vision, purpose, with your goals. Because when this happens, you'll be sure that you're setting first the right goal, and that's for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you achieve them, they will fulfill you in a way that only you can experience. And that was the reason why I came up with Spark, as a model to facilitate and support my clients, as since I'm doing coaching now.
Right. Okay. And so, as you know, the title of this podcast is Success Matters. So, what does success mean to you?
I think for me, I'm not sure if it's already a telltale sign from the start. I think success for me is having the freedom of choice to do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, because they align with my VIP. And for me, VIP stands for values, interests, and purpose.
And as we were preparing for this, you also mentioned being able to work 4 hours a day or something along those lines.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, I think that is one of the things where I wanted to be able to, and when I say work 4 hours a day, that's mainly paid work, so that I have the capacity to do the pro bono work that I mentioned earlier as well. So I don't do only pro bono mentoring, but I also do pro bono coaching, and so that is outside of that 4 hours that I mentioned.
And was it through your own self-realization that you came up with the Spark model in terms of aligning to your VIPs, as you said?
Yeah, and I think so. I mentioned earlier in terms of like observing my own personal experiences and like where I've gotten to in life, and also others. I think like it's because I know myself and the good, the bad, the ugly, so to speak. And I do love the way that I am, as well as the way that I am developing. So I want to have that freedom to choose to be myself, like, whoever that may be, and do the things that I love, whatever that may be. And so when I was putting, I think this was pretty much like, one of the factors that have led to me coming up with Spark, to facilitate that, like, so how did I get here? And I think like having Spark in terms of like, a proper flow and structure kind of supports my clients through that journey as well.
Right. Okay. And so if people wanted to find out a bit more about Spark, where would they go?
Oh, definitely email me. Can I tell my email address on this podcast? It's hello@adelechee.com. Or, I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you don't have to be active, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Adele Chee. Or again, the email address I mentioned, you can search hello@adelechee.com.
And why is what you said in terms of success, right? Why is that important to you? What are the kind of critical factors for you?
I think it's more what I mentioned earlier, to have that freedom to choose to be myself,
Hmm.
whoever that may be, and do the things that I love, whatever that may be. I think that for me, that freedom of choice is really, I guess, a CSF, critical success factor for me. That would be.
You got a few acronyms there: Spark, VIP,
Yeah.
CSF.
I
What
love
other
acronyms.
acronyms have you got in your bag?
Yeah. Yep, that's me. A quick snippet. First and foremost, what SPARK stands for, again, is an acronym. It's an acronym for self, purpose, action, reward, and Kindle. And so this is a cycle. So it's not a one flow program. It's actually all jumbled up, but it's supposed to bring you through the cycle, continue living your spark your entire life. And
Right.
so as a program, the Spark program is a 8-session program
Hmm.
that aims to cultivate self-awareness, to facilitate trust and believe in one's own abilities to realize their desired aspiration. I'm quite particular with the clients that I choose to go on Spark, I must say. Definitely, it is a program for individuals who want to have clarity of what living a fulfilled life is for them.
Hmm.
Uh, and want to enable themselves to be authentic in how they show up,
Right.
whether for themselves or others, in order to live this fulfilled life of their choice.
Okay.
Um, I'm hoping that, as they journey through the program, each client will be able to experience, the joy that I've been sharing throughout these podcasts, that they will strengthen the relationship that they have with themselves.
Hmm.
In particular, developing self-trust, because this can translate to self-belief, with which generates self-confidence. With that, I think they would feel empowered to realize their passion and achieve their dreams. To sum it all, the Spark program, in the 8 weeks, as I said, Spark is not a linear program that ends in 8 weeks. It's just, if anything, it's a foundational, the 8 weeks is just foundational to give you the tools of
Hmm.
how to apply Spark continuously for as long as you live. But the purpose and the outcome of the program is to provide you with clarity and confidence in setting clear and achievable goals, um, and very specifically aligns to your values, purpose, vision, and strengths.
Taking the theme of success, I would assume that that then defines your client's success for them, right? In going through that program and that journey.
Yeah, well, that's what I hope.
Well, it sounds pretty comprehensive, so I'm sure that does help them to define and get that clarity. So when it comes to things like the values, then how do you go about exploring what values are important to people?
There are a couple of things that I tend to use in the program. There are a couple of tools that I use.
Hmm.
Then there's obviously questioning to really help people reflect. Sometimes I think we just need to really pause to consider what is really of value to us, what is worthwhile to us,
Hmm.
um, what is important to us, and then maybe even do a prioritization in terms of that importance. Be comfortable, I guess, and give yourself some grace as well as to um, how and why and when this importance tends to shift. So sometimes you might say, like, okay, right now my husband is my priority, but tomorrow it'll be my child, or the next day it will be my parents, and following
Hmm.
day is my friend, and that's okay. So to give yourself some grace, to give yourself permission, um, to first and foremost know what you value, and it's okay to reprioritize your values in a certain way at any given time.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, for want of a better way of putting it, it's like a cycle. Your values maybe don't change, but the focus is maybe different from time to time based on where you are in your life, right?
Correct. Yes, and circumstances sometimes not necessarily changes, although sometimes they do, but cause us to adapt because of our environment,
Mhm.
and that sometimes requires us to flex. But I think sometimes when we hold so strongly, like, no, I cannot change. And because of that, your values gets impacted. And instead of going with the flow and allowing your values to shine through that change, through that process, through that shifting environment that you're going through.
Do you have any client stories that you could share with us where they've gone through this process and have found their kind of alignment to their true self and their true values and have got fulfillment from that?
Yeah, I have a couple of client stories that I can share. I think one of my clients, I guess, sometimes pivotal moments happen in your life, and then it just makes you take a step back and want to reconsider. And so this client was going through a restructuring, which resulted with a redundancy. And I just wanted to take stock of it all, really, and thought to go through the Spark program to just really understand herself again, to rekindle and reconnect with herself, and understand her purpose. And so this client actually knew who she is, what her purpose is. But, when something like that happens, it kind of shakes you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think going through the program shed some light on the things that she already knew, and just kind of recenter her and bring her back to what she already knew. But also it shed some new light on a few things that kind of complements and support and in fact reinforce, like everything that she already knew about herself, which what she was really excited about that one. And so what it came out from it was, I think originally from a action or practical perspective, she was thinking, oh, okay, let me be done with corporate now. I'm just going to do my own thing. But when we ended the course, she's realized that actually she loved being in corporate, and think what she wanted to do differently was to take on a different role in a different size organization. And in terms of that role, it was not a change in role, but it was more about enhancing that role with another passion of interest, which was mindfulness. And I'm so pleased to tell you that she's found the role of her dreams, which has allowed her to expand on that discovery through the Spark program. We do still keep in touch, and in fact, we were just chatting a couple of weeks ago, and she was just telling me all the great updates, being on a TED Talk, just sharing all her mindfulness experience, because she did go on a mindfulness program to get qualified as well.
Right.
And separately, but she's using it in the capacity of her role at work. So really cool things that, sometimes like events like that just shakes you up, and you just need to recenter yourself, and you just need to rekindle and get to know yourself all over again. I'm just conscious of time, but that was one client.
That's great. That's great story. And to have someone go through, as you say, that experience that shakes them, right? It kind of makes your world change almost overnight. One minute you're doing this, the next minute, oh, you're redundant. And for some people, it shakes them to their core that, oh, am I not good enough anymore, and what have you. So it's great that she's found herself through the help that you've been able to give her, and has really started to flourish in this new role that she enjoys doing, which is really important.
And the joy, I'm like asking myself questions.
And
the joy of coaching is that, you say that, with my support, like, she's managed to discover herself, but like I've learned so much in her journey through the Spark program as well. And I think that's the beauty of coaching, that like I think a lot of coaches don't share, or at least we share within ourselves, but not broadly with the general population.
Yeah, if you were with me right now, I'd give you a high five for that one, because that's exactly what I find with my coaching and my mentoring, is that I learn so much from the people that I coach and mentor, that it's like, in some ways, it's like holding a mirror up to yourself, right, as well. And you learn so much about yourself in the process of helping someone else. So, yeah, high fives all around for that one.
High five.
High five, indeed. So we're coming up towards the end of the time. What's next for Adele?
What's next for Adele?
Hmm.
Oh, I mean, Adele is really on a very exciting journey. In fact, like, even though I'm on holiday in Malaysia right now, I am still coaching with my clients. So
Yeah.
I think it's the beauty of the new way of working post-pandemic where everything is remote. And I'm actually quite excited because, like, I think, before working in corporate, you're at the daily grind 9 to 5. I mean, yes, you not necessarily will be in office. You might be in a conference. You might be traveling for work, but yet you're working at a fixed time. And I think it's for me, this is my first time being in Malaysia and working at the same time. Like, so blending leisure and work at the same time. I'm quite excited to see how this unfolds in the coming couple of years. I think there's been talks between the husband about like living a nomadic life, and,
Okay.
and we'll see how that unfolds. But I think coaching is definitely my passion, and no matter what I do, wherever I am, I think that's what I'm just going to continue to be doing.
Wow, perfect. So next time we speak, you might be in your van somewhere on a beachfront or wherever. That'll be
Who
great.
knows, Sanjay? Who knows?
Instagramming, that'll be brilliant. So Adele, well, we're kind of at the end of the time. Something that I've picked up from listening to The Diary of a CEO, Steve Bartlett, is he always asks his guests for a question to ask the next person. Normally he doesn't record that as part of the podcast, but I'm going to do a bit different. And I'm going to ask you we'll record it and ask you to ask the question. And then the next guest that I have, I will ask them that question, and we'll create a little chain that way of questions that are being asked.
Sanjay, you know me. I love writing. I love the play of words. So this is a challenge for the next guest.
Okay.
My question for the next guest is, what sparks your success?
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Adele, for your time today. That's been fascinating conversation. I like the way in which you've thought about what's important and have come up with this model, right? Spark. It's so simple and yet it's so effective, and the play on words with spark, the spark in your life. It's it's genius, really. Adele, what else can I say? You've done really good with that.
Well, not Einstein level genius, but well, hopefully.
Okay, maybe not Einstein level genius, but still, it's pretty good, right? It takes a lot of effort to come up with models of that nature.
Oh, thank you, Sanjay. And I mean, honestly, for me, like, you are doing such amazing work with, like, running this podcast. So kudos to you on that. And I'm really super honored and privileged to be invited. So thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. To find your success, contact me at info@successmatterscoaching.com. That's info@successmatterscoaching.com.